Welcome back into another episode. I'm Levi.
I'm Jacoby.
I'm Joe.
And this is the Thought Vessel Show. Let's jump in. Now, one thing about Commander we absolutely love is the complexity of this game. But as far as if you're trying to play with people and just do like a random board game night and people don't know like the intricacies of Commander, it is a terrible choice starting out. There's a lot of things that we are able to do in this game that a lot of people from the outside looking in just simply don't understand.
Absolutely. I've had a few of those times where it's like, oh, I wanted to learn to play this game with you today. And it's like, they normally play board games with you. They're into those complex games. And then you start explaining Magic and they go, what's the stack?
Yeah, and especially because Magic in itself is such a complex game within Eternal formats that it is always going to be hard to get people into the Commander side when you are trying to explain all of Magic at that point.
And then having to show them like the intricacies of instant speed versus instant spells and then like sorcery
and then also bringing in like a whole smorgasbord of different kind of keywords, abilities, what have you, that are not evergreen. Usually it's easier to just get them into like a limited environment first.
And as soon as you get through all of that, you also have the Tolkien novel versus of unwritten rules that are in specifically for Commander that they also have to keep track of.
And some of them when you don't necessarily agree on, and other ones you'll go somewhere and they'll be like, oh no, we don't do that here.
I mean, yeah.
So, and this kind of brings us right into our first topic of the day. Is there Am I the Arch Enemy? Joe, go ahead and take it for us.
Am I the asshole for convincing my Commander pod to kill a player? I was playing at a local Commander day at my LGS. The player, let's call him X, after me mystical tutors for a farewell. I'm running a scrapyard deck, so if he exiles all the artifacts I have on my board and my graveyard, I'll have 2 lands, no cards in hand, and no way to draw more cards.
Ouch.
So I begin to talk to the other players, and counting everything on the board, I figure we can kill X, so I asked them if they would be willing to help me, and one player was. He attacks X for 17, and then plays a combat step doubler, letting him attack again, and plans to hit him for 17 again. With the card on the stack, the player concedes, saying, if you guys are going to target me, then I'll just concede and I'm going to go. He concedes, he grabs his bag, stuffs his stuff in there, and leaves afterward. We were talking and I explained to them, which probably was apparent to them, and to him that if he resolved farewell, I would have lost, or at least I would have been forced to concede because there was nothing else I could do, and I'd rather not sit there for the rest of the day. I feel bad because Commander's supposed to be casual, and it's supposed to be fun, and we all did kind of gang up on him, but we needed to. Am I in the wrong?
All
Man,
right.
the use of periods was lost on that guy. That was all one sentence.
Appreciate you, though. Although with this, I will say this is kind of an interesting thing where if you do not have in this situation, stack removal, you have to resort to player removal. So what are y'all's thoughts on this?
So specifically, he had to do the only thing that he can do, like only having 2 cards in hand and like no kind of removal or counter, especially because from what he's saying, he's in an artifact deck. He's doing one of the most important things that happens in Commander as a multiplayer format, which is utilizing the other players.
There's another couple of things that I'm looking at here, reading this over again, that we're possibly also needing to glance and think about a bit more.
Sure.
Is the idea that he's going to sit there all day if this removal hits. This kind of sounds like he might have played with this guy more than once, and there's a chance that the deck couldn't do anything after farewelling. Maybe he was worried that he's going to have to sit there and wait for this guy to dirtle.
Sure.
Which also you don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, it's not even necessary that he would have been playing with this guy before. He's just specifically understands that farewell resolves. He's not going to be able to do anything because he has a nice assessment of what that would do to his board.
Absolutely devastating. And with that as well, farewell is a brutal spell. It's anything indestructible, does not care. Your graveyard does not care. And unless you have a decent hand at that point, it could pretty much knock you out of the game if you don't have the synergies to hold off. It's going to exile everything on the board with the exception of the lands and the graveyard. It is a devastating spell.
Yeah, the only thing that can protect majority of your stuff in that situation is Teferi's Protection, and that's not going to protect your graveyard because your graveyard does not phase out with you.
Here's the other thing, right? So with that idea in mind, I'm gotta wonder the experience level of this player who tutored, considering he's doing it clearly in like the turn, either on his turn or some other person's turn before the upkeep or untap. Like he's waiting not long enough.
Yeah, he is telegraphing hard. And as someone who telegraphs in our group and understands the ramifications of my actions, that is the worst timing to do that.
So, Joe, for our listeners here, can you explain what telegraphing is?
Telegraphing is when you, in this case, use a mystical tutor, a instant speed tutor, go get something out of your deck and then put it on top of it. If this guy is doing this and setting up for his next turn instead of, waiting for the end of the player right before him, means that you have given information, especially because Mystical Tutor reveals the card you searched for to put on top and lets everybody know who's playing that game what you are doing.
And there's something to be said about the fact that the player obviously knew it was coming. He had time to negotiate. People were getting their turns before this guy was getting his card. Before, he made it very, very clear, like, whatever you guys are going to do, no negotiations, no nothing. This is now on top of my deck. Either deal with it or don't.
All right. And a lot of times, depending on the situation, especially in casual pods, there may not be a counterspell that can prevent that. So for the players that are in the game, especially in like a creature heavy meta, where if the board's wiped and everyone's going to be in that awkward top deck mode for the next 3 turns, it may make more sense just to swing out on the person to preserve your board. There's one thing that commander players do not like to have happen, is then for to lose their stuff.
Yeah, we've in fact covered the loss aversion being real in previous episodes. And just the fact that, nobody wants to have their stuff, and especially exile. Exile's always going to be tricky to do any kind of recursion. Like the best you got is Pull from Eternity, and even then that's one card out of every card in Magic.
And something else is it's an optional card, meaning he could pick and choose exactly what he's trying to deal with. If he has all his enchantments and the rest of us are creature based or a graveyard based, he could just not exile all of the stuff he's trying to keep and then murder all of your things.
Yeah, I also think that it is important that we hear the kind of deck that the writer is running, but we don't know what kind of deck the deck that tutored for the farewell is running. That could have been a Planeswalkers deck for all we know. And just decimate everybody and you get all your walkers.
Yep, either that or it could have been an Enchantress deck. It could have been, considering the context of playing all day, this could be another one of those Aloro situations where he just exiles all of the other things and keeps a bunch of these like static stacks or pillow 40 enchantments. We don't know.
Right. And with that as well, in this game, if you go too far ahead in the lead, there's a good chance that the other 3 people will gang up on you to bring you back down. And if you were too far in the lead, they might try to eliminate you altogether. That's something that's, more uniquely commander. It may not be coming up in your occasional, board game night, but that's something you have to be ready for. If you're going to be playing aggressive cards, that very well could happen to you.
Yeah, this is essentially going off of the no player is an island. You don't have to solve everything yourself, but you can.
You could also, consider the facts. You tried to exile all of their things. They tried to exile you.
Yeah, seriously.
Fair enough. I think that's a good transition point here. We're going to get into our next topic. Penny, for your thought vessel. This topic was actually submitted us by Justice Black, so thank you again for it. And he just wants to know, what is a good Spellslinger commander? Now, before we can give into our recommendations, one thing we do need to talk about is what the heck is a Spellslinger commander? And for this, we're going to defer to our co-host here, Jacoby.
Hello. So, for those wondering, what is it to be a Spellslinger deck? What is a Spellslinger commander? A Spellslinger commander or deck focuses, instead of being heavy in creatures specifically for the bodies, they focus on their effects that involve spells, or heavily implies that spells are the majority of their deck. They utilize any effects on things like instants, sorceries, or things in their permanents that utilize when you cast instant or sorceries to bring you a value to get you ahead, be it destroying people's things, doing enough damage to eliminate players or objects, spot removal, and making it repeatable in the best way possible, either by having things like flashback, commanders that reiterate spells, copying your things, and etc.
Or you do what I do and just make every single spell in your deck instants and sorceries like Cody.
Indeed.
Now, with a Spellslinger strategy focusing more on the instants and sorceries, what do you think are some pros to running this type of strategy?
So some of the big pros are you're very focused on utilitarian things. Your spells are going to focus on being able to accomplish the things that your creatures would normally want to do. That pesky stuff that's in your way that's on their board, your objective is to utilize your cards and resources in a moment's notice and go, that thing is a problem now. Before my turn, I get rid of that problem, either by damaging it, destroying it, exiling it, possibly dealing with a player by saying, you're about to win, kill that player with damage.
Yeah, I also think that one of the pros is that the flexibility of Spellslinger's decks are also one of the biggest ones. Because if you're hard into being instants and sorceries and like that's a majority of your strategy, you need to make sure that you can pivot when you need to. And especially because so many different strategies could lock you down, outvalue you with like creatures on board, because instants and sorceries, unless you are doing some wacky things with your graveyard, happen the once.
Yeah. The other pros to a Spellslinger type deck is that they focus on what I call the fuel evaluation. The fuel evaluation is, unlike most decks that are going to be creature based, you have to look at your cards like they're fuel. They're one-time use, you burn them as you go. So other parts of your deck is going to be instants of sorceries that refill your hand. You're more focused on your grip rather than what's on your board.
And that is also something that I think is a benefit and a downside, is that when you're looking at a Spellslinger player, it's a lot harder to evaluate the board state to see who's in the lead, because they care about more of how much mana they have available, what's potentially in their hand, than what's on the board. We even, evaluate who's got the best board state. For creature decks, it's very obvious who's in the lead, with obviously some wrinkles thrown in like Craterhoof Behemoth or things like that. But with a Spellslinger deck, you really don't know until in some situations it's too late.
Yeah, and especially with just how like prominent Storm can be to that archetype. It's just casting spell after spell after spell and after spell until you get that one that is just as explosive as you need it to be.
And people don't always keep in mind the fact that a Spellslinger deck does not always mean you have a small board. There are a lot of Spellslinger decks out there, like a couple of the ones I run, where it goes really wide just immediately because it casts all these spells, and then a lot of the creature effects, like I talked about, where you focus on them, goes, hey, you made a spell or you cast a spell, please make a guy, and then going super wide with a bunch of your slings.
Yeah, and that's usually where that tricky balance can be in, because that can be a con for a Spellslinger deck, is just getting that correct balance between the beneficial creatures to the spells that you're running, and trying to make sure that you aren't just going to die on a crackback because, whoops, you had like 40 instants and sorceries and none of your like small creatures could help you.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and jump into the cons a little bit too, because there's a couple of things that I can definitely see as a con with this strategy, because you have to have a nice balance between the spells themselves and the synergies or the payoffs for those spells, where there can be get into a lot of games where you get too much of one, where it's just not going to run effectively for you when you have a lot of, whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, draw a card, damage what a creature or whatever it might be, but then you're not actually getting enough fuel to do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest cons is the same as the pro, which is fuel. Your deck is fuel. And if you burn all of your fuel before you get there, it's like a trip. You burn all your fuel before you travel 400 miles. Congratulations. You are up Poop Creek with no paddle.
Yeah. And just because you are playing Spellslinger doesn't mean that you're always going to have the right spells for the job. Sometimes the versatility fails you because you just didn't draw what you needed, and you didn't get the spells that you needed to draw those cards.
Good old Swords to Plowshares and an Avacyn is all a good dream until you don't have Swords to Plowshares and Avacyn is staring at all of your destroy target creature spells.
Man,
you just need that supplant form.
That is fair. And another thing to keep in mind with that, with the pro, where you can't tell exactly how far along a Spellslinger player might be, you also can't tell how far along a Spellslinger player might be. So there are some times that you might get a disproportionate amount of hate because without revealing your hands to your opponents, you might look a lot scarier than you actually are because there's no way to prove I don't have anything.
Oh man, that guy's got a full grip of cards. He's obviously a threat. He's a Spellslinger deck.
As I sit here with all of my islands in my hand and no spells whatsoever.
Man, same wavelength, same. That's also why the modal dual phase cards that came out with Strixhaven, so good. Editor's note: that was Zendikar, not Strixhaven. I'm dumb.
Oh man, you have no idea how many times I'm sitting. I'm like, okay, I'm going to deal with the problem. This one answer I have in my deck because I built this deck this way, sorcery speed. I got it. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to kill it. Why are you playing Avacyn? Stop it. No, don't let that resolve. Please, not like this. And now I can't get rid of Fill the Dead.
Yes.
That's fair. And if you don't have as much of a board state, if you're going against like a creature heavy game, there's some times that, if someone needs to hit somebody for a draw trigger, you might just get bullied a little bit where you don't have the frontline defenses depending on how your Spellslinger deck is set up, where you can just take a lot of hits.
I'm getting flashbacks in my Cody deck. I love that deck so much, but it happens every game. Oh, you're free and open. Let's just pop.
And the thing I hate the most, the biggest con, is people will intentionally priority bully you as the Spellslinger deck in certain situations. It's almost guaranteed if you're last in rotation.
Can you explain to the audience here what priority bullying is?
So let's say we're in a game. It's Joe, Levi, Jacoby, and one other fourth person. If fourth person casts this game-ending card, he passes to Levi. He goes, I know Jacob's got removal. I'm not going to waste my cards on it. He passes priority. Joe looks at me and goes, yeah, same thing, right? You got this. And now I have priority. I either let him win or I have to deal with the spell because everyone knows this is my strategy. They're going to make me waste all of my fuel on something that they know they can let me deal with rather than dealing with it themselves.
Now, this is in fact something that happens a lot in CDH. In casual, it can be very frowned upon because it is real power gamey. Do not do this unless you are perfectly aware of how the table feels about it.
Or at the very least, make it a communicative talk. Go either be honest and be like, I don't have the removal. Can you deal with this? Or just offer them a deal for dealing with it. So that way they don't have to feel so bad about wasting all of their energy on something you should have dealt with.
Now, to answer your question, Justice, because you asked us not necessarily what a Spellslinger is, but you wanted some recommendations. You can always go to EDH Rec and you can look at the top options. Of course, you're going to find some good ones there. But we wanted to find you some more niche Spellslinger decks that you have available. So we wanted to find some things outside of the top 10. So each of us have brought you one recommendation today, and we're going to, state our case of why we think that would be a good Spellslinger commander for you. Let's go ahead and start off with Joe.
Being the resident Wooburg player here, I, in fact, think that Ramos Dragon Engine would probably be the best Spellslinger for you.
What does it do?
Ramos Dragon Engine is a 6-drop. I believe it's a 5/5. I think it's a 5/5.
Well, why don't we just look it up right now? We all have the internet.
Yep.
Proud of you.
Man,
We're a professional.
absolutely.
Here I am staring at my option.
And it's a 4/4.
It is a 4/4.
It is a 4/4.
All right, so it is a 6-drop legendary artifact creature dragon that's a 4/4, has flying. Whenever you cast a spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on Ramos Dragon Engine for each of that spell's colors. When you remove 5 +1/+1 counters from Ramos, you get to add double Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, green to your mana pool. Activate this ability only once each turn.
So
Whew.
why'd you pick that one?
Obviously, it's the value. Specifically, if you are trying to just get there, one of the biggest things for trying to get to that storm strategy that we talked about earlier, the most intensive resource in trying to do that is mana.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to cast as many spells as possible to get that storm count up is really hard if you do not have the mana to get there. That being said, with Ramos, you don't have to worry about that because you're going to get 10 mana. Double each color just by getting 5 counters onto Ramos. And that means you want to try and focus a little bit more on multicolor spells because you get +1/+1 counter for each of those spells colors.
Man is really out here trying to get himself some sip.
Oh, yeah. It's so good. So good. And also, because Ramos is all colors, you get access to all of the nice little instants and sorceries at your disposal, which means that you get to use a lot of the spells that are still very powerful in the format to get where you need to go, remove what you need to remove, do whatever you need to do.
All right, fantastic. And for those of you that have never played Ramos before, getting those counters is actually exceptionally easy to do, to the point that you're going to have the fuel, and it's just a matter of getting the cards in hand and then moving forward from there. So it's an excellent choice.
You also get a nice little benefit if you also use blink spells. Blink instants and sorcery so that you can flicker Ramos, and then you can do that whole process again, because the activate this ability only once each turn can be sidestepped if you make it a new object, such as flickering it. Combination that with Ozolith, and oh boy, you're off to the races to activate Ramos multiple times a turn.
Fantastic. Any other comments you want to add with Ramos outside of the fact that when in doubt, you can also turn into a giant dragon beat stick?
Yes, honestly, just the fact that you can commander damage somebody out of the game because you've kept casting a whole bunch of spells and didn't use a lot of that mana to just 21 damage to somebody's face with a flying dragon. Not a hard idea to go towards.
All right.
Dragon, good.
Dragon good.
All right. Jacoby, you're up.
Alrighty, so he came at you with the Wow You engine. I'm gonna come at you with Zethi, Arcane Blade Master. So this is a 3-drop Azorius, 1 a white and a blue for a 3/3 human soldier with multi-kicker for a white or a blue. When it enters the battlefield, exile X target instants and sorceries from your instant cards from your graveyard, where X is the number of times it was kicked. You put a kick counter on each of those permanents. Whenever Zethi attacks, you copy each exiled card you own with a kick counter on it, and then you may cast the copies.
Man, that sounds so familiar. Is Zethi a different card?
Zethi originally was the Chung-Li card that was reduced with the Street Fighter.
Oh.
Multi-kicker now makes sense.
Indeed. Legs for days.
Legs for in days.
So my idea here, trying to give you the true Spellslinger slurry, what is better than casting a Swords to Plowshares once? Going and attacking and then getting to cast it every turn. So some of the caveats is you still have to pay for these spells. However, you're going to get to keep all of these spells repeatable every turn. Something that's really nice about this type of commander as the Spellslinger type. If you get enough multi-kicker, you get enough spells exiled. If they kill your commander, you get to recast it. It's going to still see the already kicked things that you have in exile, and additionally any of the new things you kick. So your list, if people remove it or you find a way to exile it, kill it, put it back in your zone, recast it, you're going to get more things, and it's always every spell you've exiled.
Yes, the value.
Yes.
Yeah, she's mechanically unique and really sweet. And of course, excellent color choice.
Indeed.
Of course you would say that.
Yeah.
I'm just happy for the glorious Azorius. Speaking of which, I'll go ahead and head on to mine. I'll go with my Glorious Azorius plus red, also known as Jeskai. We have Kaikar Wind's Fury, aka the America Chicken. Kaikar's Wind Fury is a legendary creature, bird wizard, which is the best kind of creature type in my opinion. It is 1 blue, red, white. It is a 3/3 flyer. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. You can also sacrifice a spirit to add 1 red to your mana pool.
I have never heard anyone call that the American Chicken.
I have.
Oh my.
Thank you.
Was it him? Because that's the only person that I've heard say it.
No, it's the American Chicken. Caw-caw.
America
Don't you
Chicken.
fucking dare.
Caw-caw.
You're messing with me, I can tell.
I'm really
I'm
not.
sorry,
though.
I can't hear you over all this freedom going on over here. Back to my point, though. It says non-creature spell. So all those mana rocks you're casting in the early game, those are going to get you spirits. All those cantrips, going to get you spirits. So you can get to the point that A, even if you start making token doublers, you can start profiting on mana. Or B, if you get to a point in a game that you just need to have some chump blockers to deal with, your opponent's creature heavy decks, you have that available. Or you can even throw in some lords and some anthems and start swinging swinging it in for combat damage. It gives you a lot of versatility, and having the ability to produce more tokens is going to be extremely advantageous for you, especially when you can scrap them for mana when you need to have some additional gas.
And another good thing is the token doubling has gotten a lot more love in the white spectrum as of recent, considering we got Mondrak not that long ago.
And honestly, just the ability to, sack those spirits and get those mana, which is just going back to the Ramos thing. But yeah, also just getting you a board. Getting you a board is also very, very nice.
And also, the dumbest thing of this all, they all have flying. So in addition, they are evasive. They can get over blockers.
Nah, they're 1/1s. That doesn't matter.
Drop this, casual. I'm going to snipe your birds.
They're spirits.
Well, hey, let me just pull out this Toxic Deluge for 1.
And then I play my counterspell and make another spirit.
But hear me out, right? I'm just going to have Elish Nord.
Counterspell and make another spirit.
No.
But you're not drawing too many, so let's just keep doing those -1/-1.
And that's how player removal works. But with that being said, that is definitely my selection for a Spellslinger type deck. Having the ability to produce those tokens and then convert them into mana if you need it is going to be extremely advantageous for you. Jeskai is a fantastic Spellslinger color combination as well.
Yeah, and honestly, every single one of our choices is very typical of us as players, because I like doing the weird dragon engine thing that tries to even bring in the flicker so you could do that activation of the mana multiple times. Jacoby trying to cast those same spells over and over and over with punchies.
Have as many counter spells as you want, American Bird. Eventually, one of these Swords to Plowshares will stick.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have our nice flying token representative here. That's so typical of all three of us.
Proud of you.
Absolutely.
I'm proud of us.
All right, we're going to move on to our draft today. So for those you don't know how this is going to go, we're doing this kind of like a fantasy draft. So we're going to do this in a snake form. So I'm going to have the first pick. Joe, you're going to have the second pick. Jacoby, you're going to have the third. And then when the second round starts, you're going to have the fourth. And we're going to work in reverse. We are having a draft of sorcery speed removal. Most people don't like sorcery speed removal because you can't cast on other people's turn, but we're going to draft our favorites. And then we're going to kind of talk about our decisions. So we each have our boards set and we're just going to jump right in. I've got the first pick here. So I'm going to start out with a sorcery speed, technically speaking, removal spell. I love it because you can get rid of a lot of valuable pieces. The one I am talking about today is Oko. So Oko, for those of you that are not aware, is a 3 mana planeswalker, more specifically Oko Thief of Crowns. So it's a green and a blue legendary planeswalker Oko. It starts out with 4 loyalty counters, has a +2 create a food token, which is something that no one ever does. +1 is target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes a green elk creature token, creature with haste and power toughness 3/3.
I'm going to make a food token with Oko just to spite that statement.
Okay. I mean, if you want to waste an Oko activation on that, you go right ahead.
Hey, that's how I do.
And the -5. Exchange control with target artifact or creature you control and target creature an opponent controls power 3 or less. So the artifact or creature losing all abilities and becoming an elk with the base power and toughness of 3 and 3. This does not say destroy. This does not say exile. It simply becomes this thing. So if you target someone's commander, that's an elk now. Forever, until it dies or something of that nature. However, it is extremely valuable to be able to, for a longer period of time, remove somebody's main piece of their game, which is the commander. You can also get rid of key artifacts. If there's a big creature, the joke is always, the evolution sage coming up to an Emrakul and then getting put back down into an elk. So that is my 101 for the draft. I am starting my draft out with Oko Thief of Crowns. Joe, you are on the clock.
Man, Oko. Well, I'm going to also put in some nice little versatility here because I'm bringing in Karn's Temporal Sundering.
Ooh, okay.
Karn's Temporal Sundering is a legendary sorcery. Because it is a legendary sorcery, you must have a legendary creature or planeswalker to even cast the spell. Good thing we're playing Commander. That player, for 4 and 2 blue, takes an extra turn after this one. Return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Then exile Karn's Temporal Sundering. Karn's Temporal Sundering not only allows you to remove any problematic thing off the board back to somebody's hand, you also get to take an extra turn. That extra turn could be the turn you win, and that one thing that you removed was the one thing stopping you. Just the versatility of being able to bounce anything that is not a land can be the game. Full stop. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 unless you're the person who cast the spell. Then go to Value Town.
All right, current Sepulchral Sundry coming in at number 2 overall. We have a turn of the round. Jacoby, you're on the clock.
Alrighty, let's hit him with a great card. We're going to go with Pest Infestation. XX green for this sorcery to destroy up to X target artifacts and or enchantments. Create twice X 1/1 black and green pest creature tokens with when this creature dies, you gain a life. Very versatile, gets rid of a lot of those really pesky things a lot of other colors just don't always remove. Gives you some board clear as well. Gives you a nice bunch of dudes to keep you around for blockers. They give you health back, so kind of a twofer in addition to just getting rid of a lot of problems.
Yeah, that's an excellent choice. Pest Infestation at number 3 overall. Number 4, we're at the start of round 2. You're on the clock again.
Alrighty, I guess we're just gonna hit him with another beautiful card, Curse of the Swine. X and 2 blue for exile X target creatures. Each creature exiled this way, its controller creates a 2/2 green board creature token. Got that really annoying Elishnorn? Exile that turd. Got a really obnoxious Vorinclex? Exile that turd. Enjoy your pigs.
Man, going from just getting rid of the artifacts and enchantments directly into the creatures.
Listen, we gotta let them know, okay? They want all these cool creatures? No, they want these pigs.
But I wanted them cool creatures.
No, you want my pigs.
No, I actually truthfully want your creatures because after those picks, it goes into mine, and my pick is Hostage Taker. That allows me to exile another target creature or artifact until Hostage Taker leaves the battlefield. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled and may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. Hostage Taker is a human pirate for 2 blue, black, and is a 2/3. And just being able to say, you know what? I see that that's a problem. I see that it's a very big problem. Let me just cast this. It's going to definitely be exiled. Oh, wait, what's that? I can play it myself and become the problem? Man, that sounds like a magical Christmas wonderland. As our resident thief player, that sounds like gravy to me.
Stop touching my stuff.
No, Hostage Taker.
All right, the next looks like I am back on the clock here after Hostage Taker. The pick I'm going to go with might be the single most expensive sorcery speed removal in the game, around $200. It is Gilded Drake. Gilded Drake is a 7 Drake. It is a 1 and a blue for a 3/3 flyer. Really good rate, except I'm not going to keep him. When Gilded Drake comes into play, exchange control of Gilded Drake for a target creature one of your opponent's controls, or sacrifice Gilded Drake. Now, there is a lot of things people can do in response that would require me to sacrifice Gilded Drake, but if somebody has a creature that they are not protecting, and I get a chance to get in and then swap my 3/3 flyer for Elishnorn, a Voltron Commander, anything of value, I am absolutely going to take that opportunity.
The best removal is to take it for yourself. I see your head shaking over there.
Yeah, if you can't beat him, just take it.
I guess.
If you did not want to face it, why did you put it into your deck?
It's not me wanting to not face it. It's me wanting to keep it.
No.
All right, moving on to the next pick here is back to me on the top of round 3. So I'm going to go with one that has been a personal favorite of mine, almost a pet card at this point. I am going to go with my card, Hull Breach. Not Hull Breacher, that's banned. Hull Breach. Hull Breach is a 1 red, 1 green, so 2 mana total, sorcery speed, destroy target artifact or destroy target enchantment, or destroy target artifact and target enchantment. So for 2 mana, you can take the most problematic artifact and the most problematic enchantment and just remove both of them off the face of the earth. Now, a runner-up for me was going to be Decimate, which requires you to target 4 different things, and if there wasn't one available, you can't do it. If you're in a spot in a game that there's no enchantments on the field, but there's still a problematic artifact or vice versa, you can still use it. So the versatility and then also paying 2 mana and 1 card to get rid of 2 very important things is a huge trade-off for me.
Yeah, the other issue with Decimate is that you also need to target someone's lands, which if, you can't, then you probably have to target your own, and that's not a good situation to be in.
Not
No,
at
stop
all.
being a baby. Target lands.
Okay, but I just said if you can't target somebody else's lands,
No
you would
use.
have to target your own.
No, you. Kill all the lands.
All right, so far I've got Oko, Gilded Drake, Hull Breach. I'm going to be moving on here. Joe, you are on the clock, starting round 3 here.
Well, the next one, maybe a pretty spicy play at 11 mana for Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. When you cast this spell, destroy target permanent, any permanent. Oh, I see you got a Gaia's Cradle over there. Nope. I see you have a Field of the Dead. Nope.
Get it out of here.
Destroying target permanent is always going to be nice, and there are seldom many cards that can do it. This one is the one that goes into any deck. Any deck, destroy target permanent. And when you cast it, you also get a nice little 10/10 body alongside it that's indestructible and has Annihilator 4. Look, Annihilator 4 also just is icing on the cake at that point. Swing at a player, they're going to sack 4 things. Anything. They have to. It's an attack trigger. And if somebody decides to try to do a mill strategy on you, you can always get it back because it has the last ability of when it is put into the graveyard from anywhere. You shuffle your graveyard into your library. So anytime Ulamog goes into that graveyard, your entire graveyard, now protected, goes right back into your library, and you have so many new spells to go and use from at that point. Shuffle Titan for the win.
There we go. Got an Eldrazi on the board here in round 3. Jacoby, you're up.
Alrighty, I'm going to hit you with a fun little one. We're going to go Finale of Eternity. X 2 black. Destroy up to 3 target creatures with X toughness or less. If X is 10 or more, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is a nice little versatility removal spell. It's always going to get up to 3 targets if they're all valid. And if you put enough into it, it's suddenly also a giant recursion spell. It's got a twofer if you got the mana for it, and at the worst, you're 3 cards for 1 spell. That's a very big W in my opinion. And hey, nothing says screw you like going, I kill your things. Also, all of my creatures right back on the field.
That is fair. That is our Finale of Eternity ending round 3. We are moving on to round 4, our final round. Jacoby, you are on the clock.
Alrighty, for this last card, I'm gonna hit you with some spice. We're gonna go Bitter Ordeal. For 2 and a black for a sorcery, search target player's library for a card. Remove that card from the game, and then they shuffle. It has Gravestorm. When you play this spell, copy it for each permanent put into a graveyard this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. It's wonderful to just get rid of the whole board, cast this for 3 and go, oh, I had 6 creatures, like 6 things hit graveyards. I would like to take 6 cards just out of your deck. Give them to me. They are removed from the game. You cannot have these. No pass go. No collect $200. Also shuffle your deck. Get up out of my face.
Unless you're doing the Ratadrabic Nazgul combo and then, oh, hey, what's this? I cast 11,000. How about just exiling all of your decks? Man, that's crazy.
You can't have my cards if there are no cards. You cannot take them from me if I take them from me.
That wraps up Jacoby's roster here. He has Pest Infestation, Curse of the Swine, Valley of Eternity, and Bitter Ordeal. Joe, you have one final pick remaining.
Well, in that same strain, I actually have one that's also sorcery speed, but it only does it the once. It's Praetor's Grasp. 1 black for a sorcery. Search target opponent's library for a card and exile it face down. Then that player shuffles their library. You may look at and play that card for as long as it remains exile. Perfect. I don't have to deal with that problem right now. I can just take it from you, and then I become the problem next. And guess what? Me becoming the problem? That means I took your Avacyn. That means I took your Elishnorn. That means I took your Ulamog the Infinite Gyre.
Stop touching my stuff.
You will never stop me. I will continue this. I will keep doing this from beyond the grave.
This man will stop taking his hands out of my spaghetti, so help me God.
Yes, I will in fact touch your spaghetti.
All right, so that concludes Joe's final selections here. So we had Karn's Temporal Sundering, Hostage Shaker, Ulamog the Infant Gyre, and Praetor's Grasp. So I'm getting back to my turn. I thought I was going to have a very simple one, but I did not expect this person to get to me at the last end of the draft. Is I'm also going to go with an Eldrazi that removes things, and it's also named Ulamog. But I'm going to go with Ulamog Mark II, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. He is a 10-drop legendary creature Eldrazi. When you cast Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, exile 2 target permanents. 2 things you don't like. Exile. See you later. Indestructible 10/10. When he attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of his or her library. The amount of value on this card is astronomical. Be able to just simply cast and exile 2 things you don't like, and then every time you swing, the top 20 cards of someone's deck is just completely gone. The rate on that is incredible. I understand it's a 10 drop, but it is worth it.
Exiling 20 things.
He can't have my stuff, but that's fine. You can exile them elsewhere, as long as he doesn't have them.
No, I just hostage taker that Ulamog. It's fine. They cannot swing the Ulamog if I take it for myself.
So in the end here, my roster is Oko, Gilded Drake, Hullbreach, and Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. So that concludes our draft, and that actually concludes our show for this week. Anyone have any final comments?
If you didn't like our list and you said, screw you, Jacoby, my list is cooler, present them to us. We'd love to see your ideas of interesting, fun, or cool sorcery speed removal.
I had some runner-ups because we only did 4 of these. Honestly, the runner-ups being Spinavish Shaw and Meteor Golem.
Yeah, 7 mana, destroy target permanent. Fantastic rate. Did you have any?
Well, at least Spinavish Shaw is destroy target permanent. Meteor Golem is only on land.
Gotcha, okay.
I also had the runner-up. It's an odd one that people probably dislike. Dire Strain Rampage.
Sure, what does that do?
So that one is 1, a red and a green sorcery. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. If you destroy a land, they get to tutor up 2 basics. It's one of the few newer sorcery speed land destruction spells. Even though it gives them some basics back, go away. Stupid Field of the Dead.
In a different way. You
Also
could actually harrow your own shit.
Yes, it's also got flashback for 3 and a red green. So you could harrow. It's very diverse. You could also say, Field of the Dead, please die and go away and never come back.
Rebuild the city. I'm going to make 3 of them that are creatures.
I'm just going to keep stabbing them.
All right, so my honorable mentions here, there was 2 that I thought I was probably going to end up using, but I didn't have to. One, very straightforward, Vindicate. Sorcery speed, 1, white, black, destroy target permanent. Straight up, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Something you don't like, Vindicate will get rid of it. And the second one, Oubliette. Oubliette is a 1 black, and it's going to be a target creature phases out. So the important thing with this is it's not changing zones. So if you target someone's commander, it cannot be put into the command zone instead. So it's a way to lock down that particular creature for an extended period of time. If you're running mono black and you're caring about devotion with things like Grey Merchant of Asphodel, aka Gary, or you have something that requires devotion, you have that ability. And then anything that's equipped to that creature that's being or enchanted is coming with it. So you don't have time to move it over somewhere else because it's all going to be phased out. So it's a very versatile, very weird card, a lot bigger in Pauper, but it's definitely one that I've used in decks just because of the versatility, and I think it's definitely a good value.
Yeah, and they, especially when they did finally reprint that, they actually just made it so that it was target creature phases out to update the wording, because the old wording was horrendous.
On that same vein, instead of just target, I feel the same way about Out of Time. It's very similar. It's an enchantment. It does it to all creatures.
So it's a wipe.
It's a wipe. And then it adds a time counter for every single creature. And it does it to all the enchantments and arts. There's a friend we have that uses it as a means to permanently get rid of stuff.
With Opalescence.
Oh yeah, but Out of Time is hilarious.
All right, so that is our show. So if you have any topics that you'd like to see us discuss on the show, or if you have any topics you want to see us draft, go ahead and send us an email at thoughtvesselshow@gmail.com, or you can reach us on Twitter or Facebook. We'll be happy to give you a shout out for the topic, and we'll just dive right in.
And as always, give us any situation where you're questioning, did I make the right choice? Am I a jerk here for what I did here? Someone else being mean to you? Tell us about it. We want to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Or if you just want to say hi, I'll make sure to respond in kind and just say, hi, how's your day? How are you feeling? Did you get that girl? Did you get that guy? Just general stuff. We'll answer it.
All right. Well, on that pleasant note, we're going to go ahead and depart here today. So thank you for tuning in this week of Thought Vessel Show. Have a good week.
Stay perfect.
Bye.